when you completely stop the economy from operating normally, and then you also inject a massive amount of additional money into it, things are going to get out of whack.
Welcome to Well Said, Finger Lakes, the podcast where we talk with businesses, organizations, and interesting people from around the Finger Lakes region of New York State. We're here in the live room at Well Said Media in Ithaca, New York, and our guest today plays a very important part in the business community. Please welcome President and CEO of the Tompkins Chamber of Commerce, Jennifer Tavares. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jennifer.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here.
Now, you have been a part of a lot of different Chamber of Commerces throughout your career. How long have you lived here in the Tompkins County?
Well, I've been here for about 9 years now. Yeah, time flies.
Wow. What got you interested in doing so much with Chamber of Commerces around New York State? Because this is your third, you mentioned, before we began recording?
Absolutely. Sure, yeah. So I started in Chamber of Commerce work nearly 20 years ago in Northern New York. I was the director of the Chamber in Potsdam, New York. So that was a small chamber in a small town. We had about 350 members. And as such a small community, it was one of the key organizations doing chamber membership, but also supporting our tourism and sort of economic development efforts as a community there. From there, I moved on to Commerce Shenango in Shenango County, which is a couple counties east of here. And I actually was in a role focusing specifically on economic development there. In that community, our chamber and our economic development and tourism were all under one umbrella, under the same organization. And then again, 9 years ago, we moved here to Ithaca in Tompkins County, and happy to have been the head of the chamber here for that time period. And, and I was going to say, we're in this, there's different chamber models everywhere you go. Here we are chamber and tourism. So excited to serve the community in that capacity.
I love what you do, and in the Chamber of Commerce, it's such a valuable resource for everybody in the county. That's what I think anyways. What attracted you to live in this area originally?
Sure. So, growing up not that far away, I was always familiar with Ithaca. Maybe a little known secret, I really wanted to go to Ithaca College, actually, and thought for a while that I was going to do that. I ended up somewhere else, actually in Potsdam. But we actually have family in the area. So for a very long time prior to moving here, we were regularly visiting and coming to Tompkins County. So we have family in multiple parts of the county. So the whole time we were, raising our children, we were coming and visiting and enjoying everything the community had to offer. And so just when it came time to decide if we were going to stay where we were or consider going somewhere else with our children while they were at a good age to move, we certainly were interested in Ithaca and Tompkins as one of the best options for our family, given the family being so close and already here, and then also just the community had so much to offer, from arts and culture to the natural beauty and the outdoor recreation opportunities, live music, great food and beverage, everything else that we could be looking for, and frankly also really good educational opportunities for our children. So that's why we ended up choosing to come here.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's such a vibrant community here. I mean, I've lived all over the country, from Phoenix, Seattle, Boston, and now Ithaca, and this is my favorite place that I've lived because there's so much going on, but yet it's an almost isolated community that you can explore the county in different ways. Like, there's a lot going on, both there's city things to do here, but then there's also, you can get out in the country and do some other types of things that you really don't get in other communities. What is some of your favorite things about this community?
Well, I think you really illustrated it well. You do have a really interesting and bustling community sort of city feel in Ithaca. It's obviously a very small city compared to some, but there's a lot going on and a lot both to do and also to experience in Ithaca. But then you also have, upstate New York in so many ways is one of the most beautiful places in the whole country, I think, to live. And having gorgeous rural landscapes, our agricultural communities, which are so strong here, and then so many wonderful assets like our hiking trails and the waterfalls and the state parks that we have. And then, of course, the lake, right? The Finger Lakes are an incredible asset that we can utilize here, being able to access and explore Cayuga Lake in different ways. There's just really, there's just so much to do here, especially if you like to be outdoors and enjoy, rural landscapes. So I think it, like you said, it's a fantastic place in so many ways, and it has so much to offer.
Yes, and also it has a lot to offer small businesses too here. Before we sort of get into just the Tompkins Chamber and the Tompkins County itself, let's sort of look at this from a broad perspective and talk about the value of businesses just being in a Chamber of Commerce, period. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think obviously because it's been my career path and the organizations I've worked for a very long time, that chambers generally have a lot that they can offer, small businesses. I think that looks different depending on the community and depending on the chamber. One thing I've always said about chambers is, they really, in a lot of ways, do sort of flex in order to meet the needs of their community. They are reflective of their membership and their community at large, which is why you see us as probably being one of the most progressive chambers that you'll find anywhere in the country, really reflective of the very diverse nature of the businesses and organizations in the community that we have here. And chambers, again, every chamber's programming and offerings might be a little bit different depending what the needs are in their community, depending what their members are asking of them. There's a lot of ways that chambers deliver value to small businesses. It can be networking opportunities, helping them with customer discovery, finding customers. It can be making direct referrals, so helping direct consumers to them and other business-to-business opportunities. There's a lot of marketing support that's offered, everything from individual, helping tell that business's story and highlight what they have to offer, to promoting shopping locally and helping, residents in a community understand why it's so important that they invest their dollars with local businesses versus all the universe of options that might be online or Amazon, for example. So, there's also advocacy work. That's a big thing that many chambers do, just helping local and regional, state, and federal officials understand how different policies might impact small businesses or large businesses. A lot of times it takes helping tell those stories and translate how those policies might actually end up influencing life on the street, if you will, as compared to, when you're sort of sitting in a closed room and thinking, oh, a policy, this would be a good idea. Let's just go ahead and do that. It's often not based in reality or as much data or real world experience as, a Chamber of Commerce can perhaps help some of those elected officials understand. So it really is very, very broad. Like I said earlier, some chambers are also economic development organizations, or also tourism promotion agencies. Many chambers, like our chamber, have a Chamber of Commerce Foundation, which offers different programming sometimes than a chamber itself can offer. It bears the benefit of having a nonprofit 501c3 status. So there are certain programs and initiatives that we run through our chamber foundation. And usually those are things that are more beneficial to the community broadly. Either they're professional development or education oriented, or they might be quality of life enhancement projects, things along those lines. So it really can run the gamut, and we do as much as we can to have a broad and deep set of services and initiatives that sort of help meet everyone's needs in one way or another.
Yeah, it sounds like an incredible value that might even kind of be overwhelming to some people. It's like, where do I start?
Sure.
Right? So what are some of the ways that you engage with members and the community to keep them as active as possible in the business community and also, I guess, in the chamber itself?
Sure. So, one thing that members will see, and likely other community members will see, certainly if they follow us on our social media platforms, we communicate a lot through that venue so people can understand what we have to offer, what we're doing, but they also can hear, again, we're telling our members' stories a lot through those different channels. We communicate very directly through a lot of email marketing to our members. We have several thousand people on our email list. They get emails from us every week that tell them the different ways they can engage with us, the different upcoming events, professional development opportunities, networking opportunities. So that's another, big important part of our work program, is just helping get the word out and help people know how they can take advantage of their chamber membership. We offer a lot of opportunities to engage and, directly sit down both with peers and also elected officials or decision makers. So that might be a small business intimate roundtable setting. It might be in our government community affairs affairs roundtable or our CEO roundtable, we really are trying to have, opportunities to directly plug in and engage and interact depending on what that business's needs are, right? We have someone on our team. Her name is Sarah Barden. I'm sure you've met Sarah.
She's the best.
Pretty fantastic. But, any member who's not sure how to utilize their membership or where they should be plugging in can ask Sarah or any other member of our team, what are the ways that are going to benefit me the most that I can leverage my chamber membership investment, right? And frankly, for many small businesses, what they benefit most from is making an investment with us, being listed in our membership directory, which is online on our website, receiving direct referrals from our team and from our website, and us helping push business towards them, right? So some people need to really and want to proactively get out there and build business, and their business may be very relational, and other folks may be able to be in a more receptive mode as far as realizing their member benefits. So it's really about what is going to be most beneficial to them. How can we really support them in building their business? And I'll just say we have a lot of members that are nonprofit organizations as well. So we try to ensure that we're also offering benefits for those folks. So their goals may be a little bit different, but they actually are able to utilize a lot of our programs and services similarly to a privately owned business.
Yeah, and I've noticed that email and the social media presence are all very helpful, but one thing that I've noticed is helpful for myself is logging into the website and using that back end or what do you call that software?
I think that's fair. Yeah. Our software, our actual database is called Chamber Master.
Okay.
And so it's something that many chambers across the country use. That is what's driving the directory on our website. It also is how people are registering for events and attending and engaging with us that way. People can pay their invoices or their membership through there. But there are also ways that they can connect with and find other members, and also find other resources that we have through that member portal. So I'm glad you're using it.
Yeah, I love the member portal. I try to check in like once a week, and I would recommend anybody who's in a chamber to do that, because that's a nice area to see, what's coming up on the schedule that might not be on the latest email, but you can plan ahead and see what events are coming up, because you've planned things out until October, maybe the rest of the year?
Yeah, there's many things that, we have a very rigorous annual event and program schedule. As I mentioned, we're trying to offer things at a lot of different levels and engagement opportunities for folks. So we really have to sit down prior to the year even starting and really plan out our programming and our annual calendar. So everything from our very large scale events, we have a pretty good idea of when those are going to happen, to our standard monthly events. And then we sort of plug in other opportunities as they come up throughout the year from there. But we've definitely been trying to, and thank you for noticing that we're really trying to get things out there further in advance so folks can plan and get things on their calendar as well. It's
a great help and a great tool to use. Speaking of the member directory and everything, there's such a diverse background of industries in the Tompkins Chamber, and I got some numbers here with the largest percentages being, financial legal at 10% of the membership, retail services at 13%, and hospitality and tourism at 16% here in Tompkins County. Are you happy with the breakdown of that, or do you wish to see sort of a different representation from a particular industry here in Tompkins County?
So, I've always felt that one of the most beautiful things about a chamber is that it represents such a diverse group of businesses from different sectors. Generally, our industry breakdown within our chamber is, I think, somewhat reflective of the actual business breakdown in the real world, if you will, here in Tompkins County. Again, out of all those percentage sector breakdowns that you saw in our report, 20% of the total are actually nonprofits, and they just happen to operate within one of those sectors.
Okay.
And the other thing I would just say is, as a percentage of our entire local economy and a percentage of our workforce, some things that may seem to be smaller numbers in terms of our total number of members are actually our largest employers and our largest, economic influencers, if you will, in the community. So I think looking at that chart is educational to some degree, but then we also need to remember, well, actually, our educational partners and our healthcare industry partners may seem like a smaller percentage of the total, but those are those are the largest employers and the biggest industries in Tompkins County, actually. I would say we don't necessarily look at which industry sector do we want more members in specifically. We do tend to have far more small businesses than large businesses or employers. We also have been making a concerted effort for several years now to try to make sure that we're reaching more rural areas of the county and being more present in all of the rural, smaller communities in Tompkins County. Ithaca, certainly is the economic center of not just our county, but the entire region. Ithaca is pulling, business and workforce from all of the counties around us as well. So it's just natural that so much of the economic activity and the business activity happens in Ithaca. But we have several really unique small villages and towns in Tompkins County with a lot of businesses in them that we need to be serving as well. So we've been very strategic about doing more outreach and being more present in our rural communities. And so we pay a little bit more attention to sort of that balance, I would say, in terms of when we're goal setting, we want to be reaching out to those areas where we know there's a good concentration of businesses, and we want to be sure that we're providing more services to those areas.
Yeah, what are some of the ways that you are trying to provide the services to those rural communities?
Sure. So there's a couple of different things. We've started a program in 2022 called Community Conversations, which is we are going to all of the rural communities in Tompkins County and inviting area businesses, municipal leaders, nonprofit partners, some folks from countywide planning department, et cetera, are attending these sessions, and we're having local conversations. There's a little bit of networking involved. There's always some food and drink, whatnot. But really having a local community conversation about what are the key issues and barriers and opportunities in each of those communities throughout the county. So there are themes certainly that run throughout all of our communities that we hear over and over, but then it's really a great opportunity to have an intimate conversation with folks, both a dialogue with us about what their needs are and what the opportunities are and how we as the Chamber and Visit Ithaca can support them better. But the other thing that we've been seeing happening is those folks are communicating more amongst each other and getting inspired and excited about synergies and potential collaborations and ways that they can maybe keep the momentum going after we've helped pull them together. So that's been a really wonderful effort, and that's something that we're excited to continue. I will say that started with a focus on the rural communities, but we also have focused on some other parts of Ithaca that need perhaps a little more attention and that have opportunities because there's a concentration of businesses there that have unique needs different from perhaps others in the greater Ithaca community. So those areas are Collegetown and the West End, which is where our new office is, as I'm sure you're aware. So those areas of Ithaca, the businesses need different services, need potentially special marketing support, and need to gather together and find ways to collaborate amongst each other so that they can attract more customers. I would just say too, summer is the best time to go to Collegetown. So if anyone's listening and they, want to go visit Collegetown, there's a lot of really wonderful restaurants and retailers up there that would love to have you. And we're really excited also about being a resident, if you will, in the West End and being able to collaborate with some of the businesses over on that part of town to explore ways that we can all work together to create neighborhoods. So, we try to be innovative. We try to respond to the needs as they come to us and as we see them, and to figure out how we can, provide support as the Chamber and the Chamber Foundation. The other way, I'll just say briefly, that we've been supporting some other folks in these other communities, in these communities sort of outside of Ithaca, if you will, is, in Dryden, a group of businesses got together and wanted to host a Dryden Business Association. In Collegetown, there's a Collegetown Small Business Association as well. So it's sort of a loose group of businesses in those areas that want to communicate and share information amongst each other and potentially partner together to do marketing and outreach and maybe host events, et cetera. Both of those groups are being fiscally sponsored under the Tompkins Chamber Foundation because we have the infrastructure and the staff capacity and the ability to help administer either bringing funding in or spending it on different programs and initiatives, and also helping them with perhaps some of the, putting some more formalized infrastructure behind their groups. So, there's a lot of work going on there, and, our team is very passionate about this, and that's why I think we've been successful in helping build some more opportunities there.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys got your hands full with everything that you're doing, trying to keep everybody included, sure, both here in Ithaca and in the rural communities. I will say that speaking of the Dryden business community, you held a a business after hours networking just this last month, I believe, correct?
Yep.
And I thought that was incredible, getting out of Ithaca and then networking with some folks in the county still that maybe didn't have the time to come down to Ithaca to do the networking that often happens around here. So it was great to get out of Ithaca and talk to people in that community. It really was.
Yeah. And we do try to be intentional, too, throughout the year. I'm talking a lot about community conversations and specific events or marketing supports that we're trying to offer folks in these communities. But we also, as we're planning all of our events and programs throughout the year, try to be conscious of how we can move them around to different members and move them around to different geographic areas throughout the county so that we can make sure our footprint is covering all of our service area. And sometimes it can be a little bit harder to get sort of folks out of Ithaca into a rural area. But I thought that was a great example of an event where there were a lot of folks who were, closer or Dryden based. We had members that they go home to Cortland every night or who are based in Cortland who were able to join us and attend that event because we had it in a location that was more convenient. So yeah, glad you could be there.
It was so busy too. People were parking on the road. The parking lot was full. Yep. That was a great one. Yep. I really liked it. Speaking of how busy you guys are, I always am very interested in strategic planning because it sounds like so big and broad. Like, what is it? And in your annual report recently, which you have a copy of here, there's a breakdown of priority areas of strategic planning. And I'm wondering, to those unfamiliar, like myself, can you explain what strategic planning is and why it's important to a nonprofit like the Tompkins Chamber of Commerce?
Sure. So I would compare it to a business plan, right? For it's I think different language that sometimes means the same thing. It doesn't necessarily get into all the nitty gritty that a business plan would, but every few years taking stock of what of the goals and objectives that we set last time around did we accomplish? How are we doing on that? And what new opportunities, needs, concerns, challenges have arisen during that time? And charting a path. And again, keeping it high level, it should be high level and strategic. Rather, it can be really easy to get into the weeds and into sort of really uber tactical planning when you're going through a strategic planning process. But I think you'll find most well-run nonprofit organizations try to keep an updated strategic plan and go through that process every few years. It is really shocking how many things can change in a short period of time. I guarantee no one's strategic plan had global pandemic in it, and figure out how to navigate all of that and survive and keep our funding or find new funding and all those things. So you're doing your best when you're trying to come up with a good plan. I think that actually really speaks to trying to figure out how to be sustainable and resilient as an organization. That should be part of everyone's planning efforts regularly. We decided to focus on some key areas with our strategic plan. We complement our strategic plan, again, which is sort of higher level and setting those bigger goals and looking at where are we really trying to go in the next 3 years or so, with annual work plans for both the Chamber and the Convention and Visitors Bureau that are really highly tactical, very specific, and speak to all the different aspects of our work program that we do throughout each year. So that's where someone would find more of a lot more detailed information about what we're doing and why we're doing it. And checking to make sure our annual work plans align with what our strategic plan goals were for that period of time is something that we do regularly. So we have, our key goals were to strategically support our members, of course, sustainably support our tourism partners, which again are the CVB is actually sort of a larger part of the organization than the Chamber. So I think a lot of folks don't realize or understand that, but it's really important that we're tending to the needs of those partners as well. We want to provide leadership and advocacy on key issues. We have a lot of goals as an organization around diversity, equity, and inclusion. We've been working on this for a long time, as most organizations in the area have, and I think most businesses are these days. But just recognizing it's constant work. It's a priority that we need to keep at the forefront all the time. And we had some specific ways in which we were going to focus on that work during the next few years. And then looking at the overall organizational health, operations, sustainability, financial health, and setting some big goals around those things. So It can be a lot. I also think the work of actually going through the process is really meaningful. We've gone through, and I think many organizations do, a really comprehensive process that includes the staff, the entire staff, the board of directors. We reached out and engaged our members and our partners and sought inputs from those groups, and really tried to make sure that all of our stakeholders, internal and external, got a chance to participate and provide input in the process. So that's probably more than enough about strategic planning and why we did it and what we did when we went through that process, but happy to answer any follow-up questions you have.
No, that's incredible. It definitely is a lot to think about, and the fact that you're just like, it's kind of like a business plan just sort of made sense to me, because I do a very similar thing, and maybe a lot of other people out there do too, but maybe just don't know that it fits under the strategic planning sort of umbrella. When I'm thinking about things a year out. I don't know exactly, what I'm going to accomplish or what I'm going to release as far as, products or content, but I know what it might be about, right? The general idea of it. And then those other things, the actual specifics of those will come in time.
Yeah. And the other thing I'll just say is, last time we went through the strategic planning process, we sort of did a modification of our mission, vision, and values. We took time to review that, and we made some changes and updated those things. And when we initially started the process this time, I don't think we thought we were going to be changing anything. And then when we actually got to the doing some of the work and asking everyone involved, what do you think? Gut check. Are we good with what we have now? And then we, pretty quickly, I think everyone was okay with what we had, but we also, folks, we started wordsmithing. We started contemplating, does that really encompass everything? How can we get our mission statement down to something we can all memorize and say really easily instead of something with quite so many commas, So like we want everyone within our organization, our team and our board to know what our mission statement is and know why we're here, and also be able to really quickly stop, pause what we're doing, think about it, and say, is this aligned with our mission? Does that help us meet our mission? Yes or no? I think it's really healthy to take a pause and go through that process, whether you're a business or a nonprofit. It can be really difficult just because, everyone's going a million miles a minute. There's so much work all the time, right? We could just keep our heads down and keep plowing through and doing good work. But taking a breath and being reflective is also really important.
It is, and it shows too, going back to the member portal, that you plan those things out and you have those events in the calendar. You might add some later, like you're mentioning. It doesn't all have to be planned in the weeds at the moment, but it shows, and I'm glad that you guys have that, and thank you for explaining that. You were also talking about in that answer of strategic planning about the financial aspects, if we can sort of shift gears.
Sure.
And I'm very interested in how a lot of people are talking about the cost of living increases in Tompkins County, which definitely affect small businesses or maybe large businesses as well, with rent, cost of goods, and so on. So how is the Chamber helping members and the community with those rising costs?
I think first of all, I think it's important to recognize that almost everything you just listed off, while they can be really painful, they are things that are happening everywhere, right?
Oh, yes.
It's
100%.
So we recognize that certain things are a little bit higher, a little bit more expensive in Tompkins County. We also generally have higher incomes here for a lot of folks as compared with our peer neighbors. That helps a little bit with making up for that. So, some of the challenges you're mentioning in terms of inflation, in terms of, cost of goods or supply chain issues, everything that happened during the pandemic and some of the economic decisions were made really got things out of whack, right? When you completely stop the economy from operating normally, and then you also inject a massive amount of additional money into it, things are going to get out of whack, right? And so I think a lot of what we're continuing to see are sort of some of those impacts, those longer term impacts of the economy. I think one thing that is helpful is, people have been saying for, 18 to 24 months now, all these warnings about recession and really concerns about the economy, and over, things have proven to be more resilient than people thought they were. The economy continues to to actually chug along pretty well. There continues to be really extremely low unemployment to the point where it can be problematic for a lot of businesses' operations. That's actually one of the biggest problems that we continue to hear from folks is actually the lack of workforce is as big or a bigger problem than the actual cost of goods or supplies for many businesses. So, there's a lot still going on there of national influences and international influences on the economy. We learned a lot, I think, during the pandemic in terms of how resilient is our little economy here compared to everywhere else. There have been so many times in the past where there's been a big economic downturn or a recession, which certainly has impacted folks locally, but it's always been a little better here than elsewhere because of what our primary industry drivers are, right? Higher education, healthcare, et cetera, helps make us a little bit more resilient, but we certainly learned a lot of lessons during the pandemic. And I think the subsequent years, in terms of overall resiliency, how can we continue to diversify our economy here? How can we continue to find more types of industries and invite different types of businesses here to supplement what we have so that we can be more resilient, so that we can weather some of those storms a little bit better. I know a lot of folks are definitely still struggling out there because of the costs. I think inflation has been coming down, so that's a positive sign. The biggest two factors that we find that are influences here in terms of people's business experience are workforce availability and housing. Housing is one of the single biggest things influencing, some of what you just mentioned here, right? Cost of rent, of real estate in general for renters, for businesses who rent, and also housing for people who own is higher than average here. Again, that's a problem that's happening everywhere in the country. We have a real pent-up demand in terms of our supply is never seems able to actually catch up and meet the demand here. So I think we're still a few years out from much relief in terms of our overall housing stock meeting our needs as a community, something that, as an issue area, certainly the Chamber is working on and very interested in partnering with others in the community about. And that's, an example of one way that we are focusing on this for folks. The other thing that we try to do, and I spoke about this at the beginning, is just to help our local elected officials and Albany officials or whomever understand the actual impacts of some of the policies that they're setting, right? So oftentimes there may be a fix to something that they might want to propose that actually also has negative impacts on small businesses or on businesses as a whole. I understand the reasoning behind some of the decisions that they're making. I think most of them, their hearts are in the right place, their minds are in the right place. They are trying to do good policy work, but the actual outcomes may have a negative economic impact and may make things more difficult for businesses in the long run. So to the extent that we can help communicate what the actual impacts of some of those policies might be, we try to do that as a chamber.
That's great. Thank you for that answer. I'm sure it will help a lot of folks out there. Going back to the resiliency thing that you were talking about, another thing that I feel like makes this area so resilient to some of those economic changes that are happening is the tourism that we get around here. I mean, Finger Lakes wine, everybody wants to come here for that. We got Cornell, Ithaca College. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of reasons why people would want to come here. And that's another section of the Tompkins Chamber is the Visit Ithaca tourism branch. And I'm wondering, what effect does tourism have on this area, and maybe what can we do locally to increase its benefits?
Sure. So, tourism is one of our larger economic drivers in the area. We mentioned earlier it's one of our larger sectors within the Chamber, but understanding that hospitality, tourism, restaurant-based and service-based jobs that support that sector are actually, I think it's our fourth largest job sector here in Tompkins County, so we're employing a lot of people within that sector. Visitors come and basically leave their money here, right? So if you compare it to other types of ways that we might stimulate our economy, this one's pretty high on the list, right? It's like we don't have to make something specific to get them to do that. They come and they spend money on hotels, they come and eat the food, they might enjoy some wineries or some cideries. Yes, hopefully they'll take some retail goods back with them, they'll take some case cases of wine back with them, whatever the case is. But in terms of, a relatively light lift in terms of a way to bring money into the local economy compared to some other things. So the ways in which the tourism economy here actually benefits area residents certainly is, a lot of our small businesses, particularly in downtown Ithaca, and on the Commons, without visitor traffic, it would be very difficult to retain some of those retailers and those restaurateurs. That's something that actually also benefits folks who live here, right? We all want to see a vibrant community. Same thing, I would say, downtown Trumansburg, it's very close to Taconic Falls. You see a vibrant, really small, really quaint, beautiful community to live in Trumansburg that is in a large part supported by some of our visitor traffic, right? So, we need those visitors to come and spend their money and support our small businesses for sure. There's also a real property tax savings when you take the visitor spending and also all of the sales tax that is spent by visitors when they come here and spread it amongst everything else that happens in the county sales tax wise, and the government's able to collect those taxes. It helps alleviate our real property taxes here, whether we're renters or owners of properties, right? It helps keep, I know everyone thinks their property taxes are high, so do I. But they would be higher were it not for visitors coming and spending so much with us on sales tax. So there's a lot of different ways that they benefit us. I would say also, I think several of our arts and culture venues, our museums, are some of the things that make our community very rich as a place to live are also things that visitors like to enjoy when they come to visit. So it's part of what makes this a great place, and it really, I think, to a large degree, takes all of us to help sustain that in the long term.
Yes, 100%. And I saw in the news recently that because of the way that the economy is, maybe because of inflation or the cost of living, that a lot of people are seeking out experiences,
right,
buying experiences,
yep,
rather than like just products all the time.
Yeah.
So this is my last question for you. If someone is visiting Ithaca or Tompkins County in general, just for 24 hours, what are some of the things that you think they need to experience?
I mean, if you only have 24 hours, I'm definitely going to tell them to, go to a couple of waterfalls. There's a few that you can, stop by and see pretty quickly, right? If you want to go on a 5-mile hike, great, you can do that too. But you can certainly squeeze a few waterfalls in. And it's actually shocking how many people come to this town for business or for some other type of visit and might just leave town and not see any of the waterfalls, and they don't know where they are, right? So we try to make sure that they find those waterfalls. Definitely getting food at a local restaurant. We have a lot of really wonderful options, especially compared to some other upstate New York communities. We have a lot of, ethnic variety. So I know a lot of people come here and it's like all the different Asian options or whatever the case is. So finding a good restaurant and getting whatever kind of food it is that you really like. And then, complementary to that is we have really an incredible base of beverage producers, right? And beverage offerings. So whether your thing is wine or cider or beer, and frankly, we have some local bars that are doing an incredible job with non-alcoholic, cocktails and whatnot. So if that's your experience, then we can offer that as well. And then, experiencing the Commons is really, I think, critical. It's a unique thing that we have in this community that most others don't have. And there's a lot of really unique shops and places to buy art and whatnot on the Commons. So, you could easily do all of that in a day and still make it home, in your 24 hours, whatever the case is. So.
Yes, there's definitely a lot around here to do, and definitely take advantage of as much as possible. Jennifer, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it. Where can people go to learn more about the Tompkins Chamber and visit Ithaca?
Sure. So tompkinschamber.org is the Tompkins Chamber's website, and it's brand new and freshly revamped, so I definitely would encourage folks to visit us there. We also have, in addition to Visit Ithaca, which you can learn about visiting the area, visitithaca.com, we have a live chat function, so if folks have people coming in from out of town and they need help with their itinerary, whatever, our team is there doing live chat as well as staffing 2 visitor centers in Tompkins County most days of the week. And then finally, I do just want to mention for anyone who is considering relocating to the area, we have a third website resource called liveinithaca.org. We have social accounts also that folks can follow where, we're providing relocation support and resources to people, helping them find careers, community, and quality of life. And Also, something important for area employers to know is if they are sharing out jobs on their social media accounts and they hashtag work in Ithaca, then our Live and Work in Ithaca initiative will help reshare their job opportunities so that potential candidates will help find them. So tompkinschamber.org, visitithaca.com, and liveinithaca.org.
That's amazing, and what a lineup. And I want to just add to that really quick with the Live in Ithaca thing, because it is very easy to meet people here thanks to all the work that you are doing, including the movies in the park that is happening this summer that is made for new folks in town, right, to come and watch the movies in the park and meet each other.
Yes, every Friday from the last Friday in July through August, we have movies in Stewart Park right on the lake, so you can get there early, enjoy some food, picnic, have fun with your friends, see the sunset, and then enjoy a movie with the Chamber and many of our community partners who are helping sponsor that series. The other thing we offer to help folks with relocation is something called Welcome Home Wednesdays. So every other month we have an event. It's usually the first Wednesday of a month. People can find our event calendar on our website that you mentioned to see when these are offered, where we're basically offering networking opportunities for folks who are relatively new to the community to come meet each other, interact, also get to know some folks who've lived here for a long time, and really providing quite a personal touch in helping get them connected to our community here. So, lots of great opportunities to engage with us.
100%. I moved here with my wife a year ago, pretty much this month, and it was very easy to meet people thanks to the work that you do. So thank you so much.
I bet you've gotten to know more Chamber members in 1 year than almost anybody ever.
I don't know.
Jeremiah, you're everywhere. If you don't at least know 1,800 other Chamber people by now, I'd be shocked. So,
I'm working on it.
Good job.
Thank you so much for watching and listening today. If you want to learn more about Well Said Media and our video services, you can head on over to wellsaidmedia.com. Thank you.